He spoke of how the people in the community ridiculed his mama for being so tough on him. I bet you them same people are like, that little boy gonna be just fine. Oh, my life, what did I know about death? How could I understand it? I've heard about premonition and dreams of other people's death. That didn't happen with me. I had a lot of dreams as a kid, but not about death. Sometimes when the covers were pulled too tight, I dreamt that I was falling or that someone was chasing me. But I never dreamt that mama was dead. In fact, when I was home dreaming in my own bed, it was always mama I turned to, lying right there next to me. And it was mama who comforted me, mopping my brow and telling me that everything was going to be all right. I can't remember who gave me the news at school. One of the teachers, maybe Ernest Lawrence. I heard the words and suddenly a series of shocks attacked my brain. All my memories of those first days are silhouettes, shadows hanging over me. I wandered around in a trance. There was no way out. My mind couldn't handle the fact that there was no possibility of seeing or hearing my mother again. Y'all, I swear to God, I cried for 7 to 10 days straight. I ain't talking about a boo-hoo, like here and there, or a teardropping here and there. I'm talking about ugly cries where you fall to your knees, crying in pain. Like, I was so hurt when my mother died. I felt it physically. I don't even know if I ate. I can't even remember if I ate. My job, fortunately, told me to take as much time as I needed to recover. And I want to say I was gone about a month. And when I came back, it still hurt. But I was back and I was carrying on. All my memories of those first days are silhouettes, shadows hanging over me. I wandered around in a trance. There was no way out. My mind couldn't handle the fact that there was no possibility of seeing or hearing mama again. I couldn't go to anyone for help. I didn't pray and I didn't break down. A big lump formed in the middle of my throat. They told me I was going home, and I went. Even after I arrived in Greensville, the lump didn't budge. I couldn't eat. Food seemed to expand in my throat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't communicate with anyone. Those summer months after Mama's death were a turning point for me. There was no one else to tell me anything. I had to make up my own mind, my own ways, in my own time. Never really had to do that before, and in many ways I found that situation frightening. But that week of silence and suffering also made me harder, and that hardness has stayed with me the rest of my life. I didn't go around asking a lot of advice. I was going to make up my own mind. I was firm in my conviction, maybe even a little foolish and headstrong. No, I didn't ask no preacher, and I didn't ask no doctor. I knew what they'd say. Go back to school, boy. And I wasn't sure that was what I wanted. I knew I had to make this decision alone. I sought no one's help. Let's not forget, he's still 15 years old, making grown man decisions. Pause. I know that's hard for people to comprehend, but a lot of times parents, including mine, put young children like me, 9 years old. I'm doing things as an adult. My mom built me for tough. And Ray Charles' mama built him for tough. You know, when I reflect back on the book, and he's He spoke of how the people in the community ridiculed his mama for being so tough on him. I bet you them same people are like, that little boy gonna be just fine. In adult situations, long before he's ready, but now that she's gone, he's ready. What strength I was able to find came after people like Mama herself, or Mom Beck, or Mary Jane, country folk who understood what it meant to be tough. There were really only two things I could do: go back to school or quit. And he quit. Number one, he didn't have the money to go back to school. But outside of him having the money, he consciously made the decision that I'm a man now. At 15 years old, I need to get out there. I need to make a way for myself. And you know what's funny? It's grown ass men that's 40 something years old living in their mama's basement who still ain't ready to get out their mama's basement and make a way for themselves. Now, pause. The economy is jacked up. And y'all know I definitely don't have a problem with a man who is living in his mama's basement in order for him to pay his child support. Now, don't be fooled. There's a lot of ninjas out there that's saying, oh, I live with my mom, or my mama lives with me because she too old. She needs somebody to help her, to take care. And for real, the nigga just living in the basement because he down there, getting busy with the bitches and the quackers. I don't have a problem with people who realize that going back home is a better option for them because financially they just can't do it. Okay, now you got to deal with your mammy's rules and your parents' rules and regulations, but that is the sacrifice for moving back home. Wish she could have went back to school, but life ain't always wishes. I was 15 and I wanted to move on. I had shaken off this tragedy as best I could. I had spent a couple months in Tallahassee with my old friends, and now I was certain which path to take. I came home to Greensville, packed my 2 pair of pants, 2 shirts, my underwear, my socks, my tennis shoes, and put them all in my little steamer trunk. With Mary Jane walking beside me, I headed for the train station. I was on my way to the big city, 126 miles off. I was alone. I was beginning a new life. I settled back and listened to the rhythm of the wheels turning over the tracks. I liked the motion. I liked the forward thrust. I was thrilled about what was going to happen to me. Now there was movement to my life. Deep inside, I was also scared out of my wits. There were lots of sounds around Jacksonville in 1945 and 1946, and I heard them all. It was the first big city I ever lived in. I was pretty close to the center of things, staying with Fred and Lena Mae Thompson at 752 West Church Street, right near downtown. Lena Mae's sister, Louise, we called her Big Sister, was Mary Jane's close friend, and that was how I was introduced to the family. They were kind, considerate people who took me into their home like I was one of their own. Something inside me wanted to call Fred Mr. Thompson and Lena Mae Miss Lena Mae. I was still used to saying yes ma'am and yes sir, but they wouldn't hear of it. They knew I was a country boy who minded his manners, but they also wanted me to start thinking of myself as a little man. Whatever the Thompsons had, they shared with me. I was lucky in Jacksonville because we lived close to the Musicians Union. Fred took me there once or twice, and in my usual manner, I memorized the route. I paid attention to little things like drainage pipes, sewers, or cracks in the sidewalk. And after a trip or two with Fred, I could get there and back by myself. In fact, I got to know the city quickly and had no trouble racing round on my own. Big changes were coming down. I realized I wasn't a little boy anymore and I could no longer act like one. Fact is, it wasn't till mama passed that I started wearing long breeches every day. So now you know he a grown man. Now he taking care of himself. I can go out at night. I ain't got to go home. I ain't got no goddamn curfew. I see you later. I began to understand how things worked. If I got into trouble, that was my doing. Or if I did something halfway worthwhile, I could take the credit. Responsibility came awfully early to me. Here I was in Jacksonville trying to fit into something new. New people, new surroundings, new chances, new dangers. And I responded by seeking out any piano I could find. Here comes the kid, they say. And I could understand how they felt. They were right. Once I heard what they'd be putting down, I started running with it, like a thief in the night. Little by little, other musicians around town started hearing about me. That's because I was making myself known by playing and jamming whenever I could. I didn't want to be a flash in the pan. I never wanted to be known as a teenage star. I wanted to be able to play for real. The blues, jazz, boogie woogie, swing, whatever was called for. I played to eat, and I had to be sure I could play anything. Besides, I wanted to be able to play good. Not for my age, but for any age. I remember a black kid who played piano back then. His name was something like Little Sugar Charles. He was young and he could do a few things, but the big deal was his age, not his playing. Years later, I was doing a concert in Detroit when the promoter asked me if a 10-year-old kid named Stevie Wonder could come up and perform on stage. I said yes. And I immediately understood that the child was phenomenal and his age had nothing to do with it. During my day, there were two types of sounds. Least that's how we country folk viewed it. You had race records. Those were the black bottom goodies. The low moaning blues, which was listened to if you wanted to get all the way down. Colored artists only. And I'm talking about Big Boy Crudup, Tampa Red, Muddy Waters, Blind Boy Phillips, Washboard Sam, Elmore James, Sonny Boy Williamson, and the Boogie Woogie piano players, Meade Lux Lewis, Pete Johnson, and Albert Ammons, who I loved with all my heart. On the other hand, there was music from the radio. Most of it was swing, black or white. Here I'm referring to Shaw, Goodman, Dorsey, Basie, and Ellington. I also understood that certain black cats, Fats Waller, Cab Calloway, Louis Armstrong, were popular among whites, but they did more to entertain me than to really influence my playing. Okay, I get what he's saying. Eventually, my life in Jacksonville was spent trying to get the word out that I was a musician. The gigs were few, and I took whatever I could hustle up, playing whatever they asked. I got around by myself. I'd walk to jobs or take a cab. They only cost 10 or 15 cents then. I was suddenly in a world of adults. Everyone around seemed at least 5 to 10 years older than me, and I was impressed with the idea of being able to play in the nightclub till midnight, or maybe even later. That was a big deal to a kid. Orlando was a chance to cut loose even more. I was still in Florida, still in my home state, still not all that far from Greensville, where I could go back and visit each year. But this was a new adventure. I wanted to see what living completely alone was like. And besides, I was 16 and just didn't know no better.